This week on Motor Week, Ginny Buckley, Ian Royle and Richard Hammond explore the Frankfurt Motor Show.
BMW surprised everybody at the Frankfurt show when they unveiled the Z9 Gran Turismo concept car. It's a dramatically styled sports coupe designed by BMW's styling guru, Chris Bangle.
Chris, the big surprise, of course, here at the show has been the unexpected arrival of the Z9 concept car, which is, what is it, minimalist but concentrates on the essentials. So what are the essentials then?
You bet. The essentials is a fun car, neat to drive. I think the most important thing about the car is it shows how much potential there lies within BMW that you know the lines, you know the curves, you know the ideas, but you've just never seen it like this before.
So what is different about this car to the others in the range? I mean, obviously it looks pretty outlandish. It's definitely come from the pen at your hand, you can tell that straight away. But what sets it aside from the rest of the range?
Well, first of all, it's a real concept of a vehicle. It's a big coupe, so we don't have coupes that size in our range anymore. And the idea of this aluminum space frame, diesel power, that alone says this car is something different. Then we tried to think out all the elements that could make a car really special for also your daily life, like even getting in and out of it is a totally different way, with two kinds of doors.
Yeah, the doors are incredible, aren't they? They look visually really stunning, but there is a practical element to them as well. Can you just explain for us how they work?
Well, because we wanted this to be a coupe for adults, not just for kids in the back, but really for adults, that meant getting in and out for 4 adults is a real important matter. So the whole sides of the car is open up on both sides to get in and out. There's no B-pillar. But for daily driving, that's an awful lot to have working when you're just trying to jump out to mail a letter. So it also has in those doors just 2 normal doors for just getting in and out of the front seat.
You see that an awful lot of designers seem to be looking to the lines of past models from years ago. Are you inspired by that at all?
Of course. Next to the concept Z9 is our ZA, which is our new production car, and that's a complete romance that we've learned from the past. New interpreted, totally new surfaces and forms, but absolutely a car, a classic.
Are these the kind of challenges that you as a designer really enjoy working on?
Well, we have a team at BMW and they are really the best. And these cars come from the team. And there are people who work every day with what is BMW. They think an awful lot about that. They really care with their hearts. So it's important to them to be able to take our great past, but always interpret it new for the future.
Do you think it's quite important with a marque that is as established as BMW, and there is very much a company line, and certainly as car buyers they see what they expect from BMW really. Do you think as a designer you need to challenge that and to raise different issues and to make people look at things a different way?
I hope we're doing that with, for instance, the Z9, because that's a car which is a bit of a challenge in many ways. But it shows also how wonderfully open, if you accept the fact that this is new directions for us, how open our minds can be.
Just one final question before we finish about the latest generation M3. It has been criticised in the past, the previous model, for not being butch enough and meaty enough. How have you answered that as designers? Because I mean, this time it's just such an eye catcher, isn't it?
It's a stunning car, isn't it? It's an idea of really how much more dramatic the M3 can be. We're showing this here as a concept vehicle, but it's very close to our final production idea. And it's for the first time we have a chance to remove the sheet metal on the car, make it even more different than its parent model. Yeah, it's fun.
Once again then, a French manufacturer sets out to try to convince the world that the French really can build big luxury cars. This time it's the turn of Peugeot with their 607, replacement for the 605. But straight away that's rather unfair because we have a slightly warped view of it in the UK, where we have consistently refused to accept that the French can build luxury big cars. We've associated them with lightweight utilitarian cars, the wrong end of the market. Think of cars like the Renault Safran, never really did anything in the UK, and predecessor to this, the 605 from Peugeot, never really did anything in the UK. Well, that might go some way towards explaining why the 607 appears to have been designed to look substantial and well built, perhaps getting away from that lightweight French feel and closer to something we might expect from the Germans, whose cars at this end of the market we so readily expect. Whether or not it'll work remains to be seen. It's been launched to an expectant audience worldwide. Whether or not we'll accept it in the UK, don't know. This could be the car that persuades us the French really can build big luxury cars. Christian, we haven't traditionally bought big French cars in the UK. Do you know why this is, and what's the 607 going to do about it?
Why this is, I'm not so sure, but what I can tell you is that what we want to do with this car, it's add to the traditional values of the Peugeot brand, road holding, aesthetic styling, all the technology that tomorrow can give us. And that's what we have done with the 607.
It could be that in the UK we associate French cars with being quite lightweight, quite utilitarian, rather than the heavy luxury cars. The 607 does look very substantial. Is this a deliberate move?
Yes, definitely. What we tried to do with this car was to add to the traditional robustness, the looks of robustness, as well as the dynamics and the aesthetic of 607.
What about the pricing? Is that going to be part of the overall package?
Well, at this stage, of course, we cannot give any indication in terms of pricing. What I can tell you is that pricing will be competitive. Competitive in terms of visual price, competitive in terms of product for the money.
You tried with the 605 in the UK and failed. With the 607, are you going to crack the market this time? How confident are you?
Yes, we are very confident. We really believe we will make it. Thank you.
Well, the boys and girls at Audi's S division have certainly been busy recently. Not only have they introduced the S3 recently, following hot on the heels of the S4, but now comes the final S installment, the S6. Under the bonnet you get a 4.2-litre V8 engine producing some 340 brake horsepower. Now that's up on Audi's recently introduced 4.2 V8 with a 300 brake horsepower. However, looking at the performance figures, they're not that different. The 0 to 60 sprint in the S6 takes 6.5 seconds. Top speed is of course limited to 155 miles an hour. Unfortunately, this is not a car that is going to worry the might of the M5 recently introduced by BMW. Now, keen drivers will be disappointed to learn that when the S6 arrives in the UK later this year, it will come only with the choice of the semi-automatic Tiptronic gearbox. The 6-speed manual box, which is standard across Europe, will not, unfortunately, be coming to the UK. But you do have the option of being able to change up and down the box manually using that Tiptronic control on the steering wheel, which is and works very well. I just think with the S6 that maybe Audi have perhaps got it slightly wrong in not producing a hotter version of this. They've always aimed their sights at BMW particularly. The M5 has just come out, it's so astonishingly quick. The S6, alas, is a car that will not keep up with it.
The Volkswagen Group just seems to grow and grow as they take on more companies under their wings. And the latest to benefit from a bit of VW investment is the great French car maker Bugatti. Now they're just about to launch a new model here at Frankfurt, which is promising to be very exciting. And it's all happening just over there. Now, as you'd imagine from a company with Bugatti's sporting heritage, the Chiron is mid-engined, and what an engine this is, it's absolutely stunning. Now, it's been produced by Volkswagen, not surprisingly. It has, wait for it, 18 cylinders, it's 6.3 litres, and it produces an amazing 550 brake horsepower. Is it very important, do you think, to bring the history of any car that you're working on into the new design?
It's not really history, it's image. It's easy when you do a Mercedes today because the Mercedes has an incredible story to do the Mercedes. So you are not looking at the history, you're looking at today. But because this company stopped a long time ago, we have to fill this hole between the 15 and today. So we had really to look at the story. I was not born, my father was, but I don't know if you remember. Anyway, we must study, of course.
What were you hoping to achieve with it? Because it seems to be a superb blend of sportiness, but it's very elegant and refined as well. Is that what you wanted to get with it?
Yes, I think it's right to do this project in this way. I mean, to mix the sporty, the practical things, the practical element with luxury element. The mid-engine, like Lamborghini and some Ferrari, are really just sporty, and it is correct. This company, Bugatti, needs something more, something different. So we mix some very classic and elegant elements and luxury elements with the practical and the sporty things, of course.
Yeah, I think you've really succeeded. Do you think there is a good chance that we're going to see this on the roads? Do you think you could be driving around those roads in Italy in a couple of years?
before showing the car here, I personally driven the car. It's very nice, it's very powerful, and it's got everything. The point is, Volkswagen will decide to produce or not. I know that Pierre said that this is the first car, a sporty car, is the first car that he wants to produce under the Bugatti name. I think it could be this.
Would you drive one?
Of course. Of course.
You know, I'm so hot, my feet are aching. There's just so many people, you can't get near the cars.
And there's a whole lot more to do.
There is.
So join us in part 2 for more from the Frankfurt Motor Show. Hey, do you know him?
Well, you can always rely on good old Porsche to come up with a barnstorming car for the motor show, and they really haven't disappointed in the shape of the new 911 Turbo. It's going to be introduced in the UK in, of course, the new millennium in the year 2000. Under the bonnet of the 911 Turbo, you get 420 brake horsepower from a new 3.6 litre engine. It will get to 60 miles an hour in 4.2 seconds. It will get to 100 miles an hour in 9.2 seconds, onto a top speed of nearly 190 miles an hour. It is the fastest production Porsche in production at the moment, and it will be astonishing on the road. It gets all the usual things, the extra air intakes, flared wheel arches, extra spoilers. Inside it's just like a normal 911, and also the introduction of a Tiptronic gearbox as well as a 6-speed manual should you want it. Prices when it comes to the UK are expected to be in the region of £80,000 to £90,000. Not only that, but there's a new Boxster S introduced here at Frankfurt. That gets a new 3.2 litre engine and a big increase in power as well to 250 brake horsepower. Prices when they go on sale in the UK for the S version of the Boxster start at around £43,000, but if you want one, there's at least a 2-year wait to get hold of one. The standard Boxster has also been slightly modified. The 2.5 engine is now gone, replaced by a 2.7 litre Boxster engine with an extra 20 brake horsepower too. Standard waiting list on the Boxster at the moment is still at least 12 months.
There's no doubt about it, Seat are definitely starting to play hardball. They're transforming themselves from something of a Spanish oddity in the eyes of most of the world to very much a mainstream player, and this, the Leon, is their latest addition. Now it might look like a coupe, but count the doors, there are 5 of them. It's a hatch, and Seat reckon not only that, it offers all the comfort and practicality of a saloon as well. It's going to be available with a great selection of engines too. They range from a 1.4 litre petrol to a 1.9 litre TDI. And most incredible and impressive of all, soon to arrive will be a 180 brake horsepower version, making it very much the hottest of the hot hatches and giving Seat the opportunity that they really deserve. They've always offered excellent value for money and actually dynamically very credible cars. But there's something coming through now about the credibility of their actual designs that they're churning out that makes them really quite special, and this is a very special car for them. The Subaru Legacy Outback is the natural progression of Subaru's image as a manufacturer of roughy-tufty cars, especially for farmers, giving them all the practicality of an off-roader with a little more comfort. Well, now there's an even more comfortable and sophisticated Subaru on the market in the shape of the Legacy Saloon, and Ginny Buckley's checked it out.
When Subaru first launched the Legacy last year, it was quickly followed by a new addition, the Legacy Outback. Both of these estates offered great performance, peace of mind, and little luxury touches that made them a good buy when compared to others in the class. Now, the Legacy was bold and it was brash, yet it appealed to drivers because of its practical utility nature. It could do the rounds of the farmers' fields and still had a little extra kick to keep the drivers happy. What it didn't appeal to was the lucrative executive market. So to bridge that gap, Subaru have launched this, the Legacy Saloon. The go anywhere, anytime capabilities of this car have been very well disguised. At first glance you wouldn't think that it could go through boggy waters or drifting snow, but thanks to the all-wheel drive capabilities it can. In terms of styling, Subaru have tried for the slick executive look. Well, that's what they were aiming for anyway. What spoils the look of this car for me is the front. It's obviously taken from its estate brothers, but it fails to complement the modern, meaner look at the back of the car. Still, a redeeming factor is the side skirts and the alloy wheels, which come as standards on all models. Once inside, you'll find that some effort has been made to steer away from those famously bland Japanese interiors. Without much success, I'm afraid. However, you do get some nice luxury touches. The leather seats come as standard on the saloon, along with electric windows and climate control. And if it's little extras you're after, then you can opt for the Electric's luxury package, which comes complete with cruise control and my favourite, electric seats. But luxury or not, there just isn't the kind of build quality in here that you expect in the executive car park. The seats, surprisingly, are manually operated. The buttons and the switches all feel a little bit flimsy. And the steering wheel, well, it just doesn't suit the car. It's huge. It would seem more in place in a bus. So will this affect the handling of the Legacy? Well, there's only one way to find out. This is the automatic version with the 2.5 litre engine producing 160 brake horsepower. What's very disappointing is that you really can't feel that power. There's just simply no kick there. Apparently it takes just over 10 seconds to get from 0 to 60, but it actually feels like an eternity before the engine starts to respond. And that lack of responsiveness gets very frustrating when you're driving around town. There's certainly no burning rubber in the traffic lights in this one. But when you get the revs up into the mid-range, the Legacy picks up quite nicely. It has a top speed of just under 130 miles per hour, and it's brilliant for cruising up and down the motorway in. Now let's get back to the steering. Although responsive, I think it feels far too light, and there really isn't the instant power in the automatic version to get you out of a tricky situation should you spin that wheel a bit too much. What about the all-wheel drive system? Well, it should mean that this vehicle corners as if it's on rails. Now, it does have an all-wheel drive badge on the back, but that really isn't reflected in the handling. In general, the whole ride is far too soft, and it just isn't entertaining enough. The redeeming factor of this car is that it's actually not that bad value for money. You get all the trimmings, a decent engine, and not a bad-looking car for a reasonable price of around £18,000. If you're not bothered about that luxury pack and you do want to use this car as a utility vehicle, then you could save yourself nearly £3,000, as that's how much those extras cost. All in all, the Legacy Saloon isn't a bad car. This 2.5 litre engine should prove to be far more entertaining with a manual gearbox, and I'm sure that it is. What Subaru are trying to do with the Legacy is to break its mould. They want it to leave the country lanes behind and head for the road to town. But it isn't quite there yet, and it would take rather a posh farmer who would use this car to chase his sheep in.
Well, the main news from Ford here at Frankfurt is the introduction of a slightly new, slightly restyled Ford Fiesta. But before you start getting all excited, nothing much has changed. Look at it from the rear, look at it from the side, and you'll think it's just a normal Fiesta, but it's here at the front where the stylists have gone to work. It's been given the new edge design look, as we've seen on the Puma and the Car and the Cougar. Apart from that, it also gets some extra standard equipment. Head and side airbags become standard, a slightly revised and upgraded continuously variable transmission option 2, and the introduction of a 1.6 litre engine to the Fiesta range, the 1.6 Z-Tech, in a special new 1.6 Sport 3-door model, which should be really quite rather nippy around town.
And from Fiat, the new Punto. And it really is the new Punto. Everything on it has been revised and renewed. That's not to say the old one did anything particularly badly, it's just that this one does everything it did that little bit better, including, I think, looking good. There's no doubt that Fiat will have no trouble at all knocking these things out in Italy, where the locals will snap them up like hot pizza. As to whether they expect to corner any significant share of the market in the UK, well, that's a different matter entirely. It's a very competitive sector up against the likes of the 206 and the Clio and now, of course, the new Fiesta. But one thing the Punto does do very well indeed that's unusual for this sector is provide diesel power. The diesel engine version, by all accounts, is very strong. Bad news for the lads, there's going to be no Punto turbos anymore. They'll be replaced instead by the HGT, which is the new hot version and very good, we're told. That goes on sale a little bit later, but this, the straight Punto, should be on sale any day now.
Now, Chrysler is one manufacturer that we expect a great deal of at shows. They always unveil some wild and crazy concepts, and they haven't disappointed us here at Frankfurt. This is their concept. It's called the Java. Now, it is a small car, but the aims of it were to carry 4 adult passengers in as much space and comfort as possible. Okay, it might not be quite as unusual to look at as something like the Prowler or the Viper. By producing cars like the Java and also the PT Cruiser, which is due to go on sale, Chrysler is showing other manufacturers that small doesn't necessarily have to be bland or boring.
The Java features what Chrysler call passenger priority design. Now, this basically means that there's more room all round for the driver and the passenger. In fact, the rear passengers actually sit higher than those in the front, giving you a kind of theatre-style seating. Extra interior space was gained by moving the windscreen forward and keeping the car's overhangs to a minimum. The interior is practical and flexible, but Chrysler have also concentrated on making it upmarket and comfortable by featuring Swedish-style colours and materials. There's an abundance of aluminium, chrome, cream and light green leather and lovely maple wood. It all feels very swish and swanky. The exterior has quite an athletic feel to it. It's rounded off by prominent detailed headlamps, a taut body, side surfacing and large mechanically inspired 18-inch wheels. The show car features a new light green silver metallic finish which really catches the eye. Under the bonnet, the Java is powered by a 1.4 litre 4-cylinder engine. Its 80 brake horsepower pushes it to a top speed of just over 100 miles per hour. At the moment, Chrysler is staying mum as to whether we'll ever see this car out on the roads, but if past experiences are anything to go by, don't be surprised if you do.
More from the Frankfurt Motor Show next week on Motor Week.